All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Candace Smiley. Here we talk about trusting the niggle and telling the truth. And my guest today is an incredible woman by the name of Rachel. Rachel has her own podcast, and we had a chance for me to be interviewed by her a number of weeks ago. And we really hit it off. We talked about the divine feminine and the divine masculine and balancing the two of those and how that you could show up like that for yourself in your business. And of course, I had to have her back to be a guest on my podcast. So today we're talking to Rachel Shumway, incredible woman. She has a business called the Badass Academy. And we talked a lot about her being an emotional resilience coach, what it means to be emotional resilience. She specializes mostly in helping people to develop the skill of trusting themselves when you've gone through some sort of trials. Now, she's also got a story that's very similar to mine in terms of trauma after trauma after trauma, though she grew up at the start of her life feeling fairly safe and secure, but not necessarily set up for the gaslighting and that sort of thing that was due to come. And I think that that's a story that many of us women can relate to. Well, we are ill prepared for the gaslighting and manipulation that comes into the world. We embrace without realizing it subtleties around guilt and gossip and shame that make us easy targets for people who are often very well meaning to use us and abuse us. And it takes sometimes years for us to be able to bring that to light and really begin to own my life. So she talks about how 5 years ago, or a few years ago rather, she got a divorce after 5 years of marriage. She moved her. She dealt with some trauma. She was living in a different country. Anyway, she rebuilt her life. And that's when she started her business. She's healed herself from an eating disorder, as she says, to become the Rachel I am today. Anyway, it is wonderful that she gets to be a guest today. Her resilience motto is, I'm a badass. And I love it. I'm a badass feelings feeler. Anyway, I sincerely enjoyed my conversation with her on her podcast and certainly enjoyed our conversation that we shared. So grab your cup of coffee, grab me a glass of wine. This is definitely a conversation for the girls, by the girls, and I can't wait to share it with you. Thanks so much for listening. All right. Well, before we get started into our latest podcast, I want to give a shout out to an online event that I get to be a part of here coming up on February 17th. It's the Integrity Seminars, their Growth Summit. And they're asking questions like, do you ever wish that you could find a roadmap on how to start building community, better relationships with others and with yourself? Of course, we're always asking how we can make this our best year yet. And the good news is that the summit is packed full of amazing speakers who are living on plan and on purpose. We're talking coaches, entrepreneurs, and more who are sharing their secrets on how they've been able to create amazing results in their lives. The best part is the event is totally free, and there will be an affiliate link for you to click on to go ahead and grab your free spot down in the show notes, whether you're listening in on any of the podcasting platforms. It's a one-day event, and simple things you're going to discover will be to how to build a community through co-creation and cooperation, how to have better relationships, first and foremost, always with yourself, then others, and then with the world, how to break through fear and expand what is possible in your life, working through differences and to focus on your similarities, how to grow your confidence. I know that's a really big talking point these days. And of course, how to use boundaries to create successful personal and professional relationships. So I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to take advantage of this free online one-day event. Again, the link to grab your ticket to reserve your spot will be down in the show notes, so feel free to grab that. And I look forward to sharing my Trust the Niggle Tell the True story with you guys on that platform on February 17th, 2022. I wanted to talk to you a minute today about the gig economy. What is the gig economy? It's basically the side hustle, side income economy that's become so popular today and age. I hope you're still listening to this ad because it's really important for me. I was in the network marketing industry for over 13 years, and I had an incredible experience. I learned a ton of things, but there were many things about the industry of network marketing that I really didn't love. One of which was the overinflated products. Number two was the fact that I had to build a team or balance those things that we would call legs, the whole pyramid thing. I really was done with that. About a year ago, I was introduced to a social retail company. Social retail simply means that we are using our social media platforms, which are free, by the way, to promote products and services that we love. The affiliate marketing is booming. Not even going to lie. It's an incredible place to be in. And I'm speaking to the woman who's in her 30s or maybe in her 40s, and she'd like to create that extra income. She'd like to create income on her own time. And she'd like to do it in a company that isn't all about the hype, that has some real products that she can get behind, and would work with somebody who wants to teach her how to do that. If that's you, then I would really love it if you would reach out to me. Feel free to comment below or leave me an email. Scan the code. I'm sure there's a code somewhere if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but I would love to get in touch with you. And this is why. The company that I'm with, modere.com or modere.ca, depending on where you're at, check out shiftingretail.com. So that's shiftingretail.com. I want you specifically to go check out the values of this company and what their mission is. That was really important for me. I got flown down to the corporate offices and I had a chance to meet with the corporate crew and meet with the visionaries that are really driving the company forward. And what I discovered is this. The first thing they said to me was, Candice, when people come here from a network marketing company, they start making money. Now, disclaimer, this is work. This is going to take work. This is going to take energy, effort, time, and skill. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Those don't exist, at least not ones that I would like to put my name behind. However, this company pays us 10 to 36% on commissions of whatever we've moved within our business. And we get paid daily. We get paid up to twice daily. Biggest, coolest thing about this, if I move product, I get paid on the product, period. No balancing legs, no having to do any of that stuff. If product moves because of a referral that I did, whether it was through my social media, through a swipe up influencer, or a person-to-person conversation, doesn't matter. I'm going to get paid on it. And for me, being paid on the work and the effort that I do is important. So if this is something that's intriguing to you, I invite you to head over to shiftingretail.com or head over to Smiley, that's CSMILEY.shiftingretail.com, and you'll be able to join my team directly. If you've got some more questions, please comment below or find a way to contact me and get in touch, because I would love to share with you how we're building this and how affiliate marketing is the place for you to be. And trust me, once I show you how to do it with this company, I will show you the many companies, brick and mortar stores, you name it, sole proprietors, entrepreneurs who have an affiliate-based idea. And once you can do it with one company, you can do it with any of them. So I'm excited to teach you that. In fact, so excited, we're going to give you 120 days of done-for-you post or text that will help you so that you don't have to worry about what to post or when to post or how to post it. We're going to give all of that to you. You just got to show up with drive, determination, and some cash flow to get you started. $39.99 gets you your affiliate link and code and gets ready to start. Maybe you want to try some product too. It's awesome. But up to 2 customer orders actually qualifies you for commission. So you don't even have to place an order, provided you've got customer orders that are moving in your business. Brand new customer orders qualify you for commissions every month. Super cool. Definitely an opportunity for somebody who wants to come in, put some effort in, and work with integrity, work with honesty, but really begin to use the social media time that right now is really just wasted time and turn that into cash flow. Awesome. Hope you have a wonderful day and keep enjoying our show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Create the Ripple podcast. I'm your host, Candice Smiley. Here we trust the ningle and we tell the truth. This is a podcast. We are looking to have conversations that matter, conversations that take courage to engage in, where we cut through the noise that exists online to bring you incredible content, amazing speakers, and stories to inspire you to live your best, listen to yourself, and tell the truth of who you are and who you just might become. All right. Well, I'm excited for our episode of the Create the Ripple podcast today. My guest and I actually had a chance to connect on her podcast And we had a lovely time chit-chatting. Honestly, Rachel, when I got to the end of that, I could have continued talking to you for hours. So of course, we're going to have links to your amazing podcast down below. But before I get any further into my introduction, I want the listeners to hear who you are, what you're about, and where you come from. And then we're going to jump into some topics.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on here. I agree. Having you on my show was so much fun, talking about feminine and receiving and all of those things. So, yeah, I am Rachel. I am an emotional resilience coach, which essentially means that I have gone through a lot of hard shit and learned a lot of things about going through difficult things and learning how to bounce back quicker from a place of self-trust and self-compassion. And so with my background in coaching and education, that's what I help other people do as well, navigating through challenges, healing past traumas, and really learning how to speak up for themselves to create the life that they want in their relationships. I'm from Colorado. I've lived abroad, lived in China for 3 years, and have a lot of very random interests. So that's me in a nutshell.
This is clearly why we get along really well. Because somebody yesterday, I was a guest on their podcast, and like, you were like into like everything. And I said, yeah, I literally have a bookmark where it talks about, you know, like the meaning of your name. And it says Candace has a certain interest in everything, which leads to a certain instability. And I was like, yes. And it's been true for my life. I just feel like there's so many interesting things going on. I'm passionate about a lot of things, and a lot of things seem to blend really well, at least in my mind. Right. And I'm like, well, this makes sense because it complements this. And when you were talking about the emotional resilience coach, resilience is one of my favorite words, right? In my mind, I think about, you know, like the rubber band, how it like stretches but doesn't break. Like that's sort of the mind I have. And so I've been practicing resilience in my own life. And of course, my listeners know I have an incredible trauma story. And so talking about that with the self-trust and self-confidence, I'm like, well, duh, no wonder you and I connect, because we relate and understand each other so well. Do you want to give a little backstory on, you know, how the trauma came about, or should we focus more on where you are now and what you support people to do?
Yeah, I think we can go into both. One definitely informs the other. So a little bit of background with that. I grew up in a normal home. I wouldn't say that it was super traumatic by any means, but certainly there was plenty of emotional instability and emotional unsafety that led to me associating a lot with people that were more gaslighting or more in the space of that it wasn't safe for me to express my needs, to express who I really was, and to start people pleasing and this whole shape shifting and morphing of like, okay, I'll be whoever you need me to be so that I can be loved. That was a pattern that kind of started in elementary school. And then when I met my ex-husband, continued on. So that's the real
I'm laughing because I was like, oh, yes, you have one of those too.
I do. To be honest, he is a good person. There's no hard feelings there, but he, as me, a person that was suffering from severe depression at the time, he was not able to handle that. And so I was living in China with him. We moved to China 3 weeks after we got married. I was 19 years old. And he was, I think, 25, 26. There was a significant age difference. But anyways, we moved to middle of nowhere, China, and there were 3 people in the whole city that spoke English. We were 2 of them. So no friends, no support. I was super depressed. And the dynamic between us essentially became, Rach, you just need to be more grateful. There's nothing I can do to help you. Positive thinking in a very toxic way. And so, of course, then I took on more of the responsibility for the relationship. And that led to a lot of emotional neglect and emotional narcissistic abuse. And so that was like a 5.5-year thing, which I didn't even realize at the time that I left him. I didn't even realize all of the nasty things that had been said to me. They just kind of seemed normal to me. Like, oh yeah, like, of course my needs aren't worthy of being met. Of course I'm not supposed to speak up because that's not safe. It's going to mean backlash. It's going to mean like stonewalling or whatever. And so it honestly took me about 2 years to finally allow myself to become angry, which for those of you, like, I'm sure your listeners are very well educated and smart. That's the very first stage of grieving is anger. Like allowing yourself to accept that something bad has happened to you, that you were a victim in some way, which is like a really icky feeling.
Mhm.
And then starting to move through that with all of the messiness that comes through it as you jump from anger to denial to depression, and then finally to acceptance in all of the different areas, right? Um, at the same time, I was living in Shanghai. I went back after I got a divorce. Ironically, as we had moved there 3 weeks after we got married, I also moved there 3 weeks after we signed our divorce papers.
Detours, yes, plot
I
twists.
know. So
Mhm.
much psychological things going on there. But
Mhm.
so yeah, like I relocated and then was putting myself in a new country, in a new environment, no language, no like way to read English or really navigate my way around there. So that was like another cherry on top of just like, okay, it's time to develop a thicker skin.
Yes.
Um, and then yeah, I'll say the third big thing was COVID hit, and I was definitely like an emotional eater before that, but then COVID hit and it escalated very quickly into more eating disordered behaviors. And so, like, working through all of that all at the same time, it's just been like bam, 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 bam. And then, of course, I started the business like 2 weeks after COVID hit. So, of course, why not? Right.
You are me. This is crazy. It's like
To whom it may concern, my name is Hugh, and I'm currently a world traveler / entrepreneur. I've done real estate and stock investing, but honestly, they both suck compared to traveling. Not really. I have a passion for all that I've mentioned so far, especially being the host of Thoughts of a Random Citizen, where I get to talk about, well, everything. Sometimes it's just me giving you my knowledge and expertise. Other times I talk with unique guests from all around the world in all different walks of life. Travel, business, wealth, philosophy, science, it's all on Thoughts of a Random Citizen. I'd be honored if you'd come check out the podcast, where I'll do my best to entertain you all the way from my current residence over here in Barcelona.
and I don't know about you, but I feel like I do a lot of healing work in the negative situation, which allows me to move so much quicker when I get out and beyond. And I think it's because I know that, women, if they leave an abusive relationship, tend to go back up to 8 times, like before they can actually leave.
Mm.
And so some of those statistics terrified me. And I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to stay out, right? Like, we're not going to go back on it. But just listening to you sort of like move and shift and move and shift, I find it's challenging for people to be friends with me because I sort of move and shapeshift so quickly.
Yeah.
And recently now I've just become a lot more honest and realized I have to let people in a little faster, because I might have been thinking about this particular change for months or even years, but I don't really start talking about it until I'm certain of it in my own mind and my own heart. And I think a lot of women are like that. And when you have been gaslit, you don't realize that it's okay to express your needs, B, to change your mind, and C, to go after what you need. I mean, the newest relationship that I'm in right now, where I can express, hey, this is how I feel, knowing that the person I'm with is going to have a potentially negative reaction to that, and knowing that that's not necessarily, payback or kickback. That's them experiencing their emotions based on what I said. And just because they have a negative response doesn't mean I need to change my response or take up any less space. And
Yeah.
that's a new thing for me.
Yeah.
So, for the
It's
listener,
mind blowing to,
right?
and it's the same experience with me, my current partner. Like, I was talking to him last night, even of like something had happened. I was like, hey, like this wasn't okay with me. And it was like mind blowing for him to be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I totally get that. I'll work on it.
Right? Yes.
What?
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 Well, I mean, the other day I said something to him and he was like, ouch, that hurts, babe. And I said, so the old me would have immediately rushed into like, no, I'm just, change my mind, lessen the impact, right?
Yeah.
Own it. And I'm like, actually, I'm not going to lie to you and be like, this is what I think. This is what I feel. This is the impact. I can see that my reactions had an impact on you. And so we're both hurt, right? And I'm not going to minimize that by minimizing myself, because I've done that for so many years. And so learning to be uncomfortable and having that be okay. And did we move through it? Yeah, we took a couple of hours and worked through it in our own minds and our own hearts. And then we came back together and I'm like, are we good now? And we actually didn't even need to talk about it again, because we both realized we both needed to, like, go into our own corner, work on it, and then come back with a whole new awareness. And I said, I feel like we're learning all the time. And I need to share that with my listeners because they need to know, because all they hear is the pretty voice. They hear, the laugh and how at peace we are with it. But it's kind of really messy,
Yeah.
being us.
You
being
have to be comfortable with rumbling through it, as Brene Brown talks about, right? Like, it's not fun.
No.
And I don't think it's supposed to be.
No. Mm-hmm.
Vulnerability, yes, in a partnership, I think we have to be able to be vulnerable and have that trust. But first of all, it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And second of all, having the expectation that it is ever going to be easy to have that vulnerability is setting us up for massive failure. Like, when it does happen and like you share it and it's great, that's wonderful. And like, ride that out. But so many times that's really not how it happens, because opening yourself up in that genuine way, it does put you at risk in some way. So that's the body's way of being like, okay, like, are we sure we want to do this? It's just a protection mechanism, which it's fine.
It's fine. And it is challenging, especially when you have been gaslit and you've been manipulated. Like you said, you left the relationship and you had no idea that you had been, right? And the depth of it. I understand. I'm currently trying to leave my marriage and actually become and have an ex-husband. And it's intriguing to me how long it took me to say there was financial abuse. There was, right? It's taken me a really long time to label it, because I look at him and see him with kindness and compassion and care. And certainly there's all kinds of stuff mixed up in that. But there's a certain power that comes when you start to call it out for what it is. Yeah. When I can look and say, hey, he was toxic to me, guaranteed I was toxic to him. And so that, like you say, the acceptance and coming to that place. But when you said, you got angry, I was like, there were some years where I was so angry. And I think it was because, of course, my first assault happened at 17. And it took me about 20 years to get angry. I was passive aggressive for a long time, but this is what happened. And I'm allowed to be angry about the change. I'm allowed to acknowledge that I've been changed by this thing. I'm not the same person. I have to figure out what I'm doing next. That's okay. And allowing that has been probably one of the biggest gifts I've given myself. Like, hey, it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, in the process of grieving or trauma healing, there's always this part of looking back and rewriting the story, of going and saying, okay, I understand why that person said this thing to me. It's because, they weren't able to deal with negative emotion, or they were making this kind of assumption, to kind of understand where they were coming from. But if that's done without anger, if that's done without acknowledging the deep hurt that lies underneath that anger, then it's just making justifications for the other person's behavior and not allowing yourself to honor the pain, which in a lot of ways, like, understanding and rewriting that past story, it feels a lot better than going inside and being like, oh my gosh, like my body aches. Like, there were times that I would go into the pain and start choking as it came up because it hurt so badly. It's not fun. But at the same time, like, resilience, I think, is building a container within your mind and within your body and a relationship with yourself and with your pain, that it's going to pass, that it's okay, and that you are still lovable and worthy and infinitely capable of processing this pain, even though it doesn't feel good.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you were saying about that, because, we do have to do that hard work. And yes, it is easier, like you say, to tell the story rather than that. And to be honest, that was one of the number one barriers for me in terms of dealing with the trauma, is I was terrified to invite that trauma, to look at it fully, to feel it, because I was terrified that it might just overtake me. The guilt, the shame, the regret. Like, regret was something that I used to say, I don't have any regrets in my life. Well, yeah, because I was running from them, like as fast as I could, rather than sitting in the tough stuff. And like you said, accepting you are still lovable, you are capable, and I want us to sort of dive into that a little bit for the listener, because I know this is what you do, supporting women through their trauma story, supporting them to then set up great boundaries. So let's maybe move into that part. So for the woman who's like, okay, I'm there, believe me, I feel it. Now what do I do so I don't get, this tsunami hit me of guilt and shame and regret?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a process, right? Whatever you are feeling in the moment, whether that be the pain, whether it be numbness, along with a knowing that there is pain underneath that, whether it be a resistance to processing that, whatever you're feeling is enough. And whatever is there is what is there for you, so that you can practice the skill of holding space, of being with yourself, watching yourself have an experience. And it's like there's two people in the room. There's you, who is kind of watching all of it, who is able to be compassionate or to be angry or to be whatever it is towards yourself as you are processing the experience, as you are having the grief, as you are being afraid of being swallowed up in the emotion. But being the watcher of all of that, that's really the skill that we start with. And it starts on a very small scale. For me, it started with learning to be okay with numbness, by recognizing that, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of stuff buzzing under the surface. I don't know what it is. It feels super heavy, but right now my body's just shutting down. Okay, how can I be okay with feeling numbness? How can I be okay with not beating myself up because I can't just open the floodgates and let all this stuff come out? Because there's a reason why we can't do that. It's because we haven't practiced it. And our body knows that we're able to handle what we're able to handle. So starting with wherever you are and learning how to be compassionate to the resistance as we notice ourselves pushing away the emotions, noticing what comes up, noticing the sensations in our body, noticing ourselves want to bolt away from them, want to go eat something, want to go watch TV, want to go scroll Instagram, just noticing like,
want to go text an ex-boyfriend because he'll give you the attention, right? Want to go and do that to move through that. And oh, this is beautiful. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Noticing yourself wanting to escape. And then like, oh my gosh, look, you just noticed. Good job. But like, you noticed your pain. You noticed yourself wanting to escape. Good job to that. Because normally what we do is like, I want to eat chocolate. Like, screw this. Like, I can't do it. I'm not capable. But it's like, well, the fact that you noticed that means that you're not running away from it. So high five to yourself.
High five to yourself. Oh my gosh. Girl, I'm just like this is gold. This is gold, because people often ask like, well, how do you get to that next space? And I'm like, well, half of it is noticing. I had a massage yesterday, and the girl who was working on me, we were talking about these things, like noticing it. And then, you go to another level of, your healing and your work. And then you still find that there are things you have to deal with, except when you get to a certain level, it becomes almost fun. Right. Because like you said, you're doing the watcher thing, you're observing, right? So there's me walking in and looking in this closet and being like, oh, look at that. There's that thing that's going on. This is still affecting me over here. This is still affecting me over there. Like, I didn't realize for the longest time that not only was I choosing masculine partners who were gaslighting and manipulating, I was also choosing feminine friendships, because so the pattern went everywhere. But it took me forever to get through enough of the healing to recognize, whoa, that pattern is over here. That pattern is over here. That's having a really big impact. I need to get an integrity like everywhere. And at one point that was very debilitating, right? Because I felt like there was if there was a list of things I needed to fix about myself, it was very, very, very long.
Super heavy.
Right. And now I know that list is never ending. And I'm okay with that, right? Because I'm just going to do my best for as long as I can and keep on growing and changing and being better. And I wish that for more people, especially when they're like in it or just embarking on that telling your own truth journey, right? That's the whole premise of the podcast, right? Trust the niggle, listen to yourself, and then tell yourself the truth of what is. The harder part of that is not the listening, it's the telling yourself the truth, which might be, I really hate myself.
right
Good.
now. Like that's
Honor
where,
that. You
yeah.
noticed it for the first time. You're not using food, like you say, you're not using alcohol, you're not using sex, you're not using something to continue that. You just owned it, honored it, and looked it dead in the eye.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Step one.
And that's like the hardest part for so many people is like, I like to think of the body as a glass, if you will, and what's inside, be it crystal clear water or dirty water representing, anger or something that's uncomfortable. We so often want to be like, well, what do I do about this? Like, I want to move through it. I want to process it. And then we try and like put another fluid inside of it instead of allowing ourselves to like drop by drop, empty out the glass, which in this analogy means telling ourselves that truth, allowing the water to be dirty, to smell terrible, to make our glass tarnished for a short time. As we allow that emotion to process through us, to like vibrate through our bodies as they do, so we can let that pass and have a clean slate, a neutral place to fill in what we would like instead.
That's beautiful. And I hope the listeners felt that the way I did. I mean, I have goosebumps because when you can come to that place of acceptance and then owning it, it's just an amazing place to live from. And I'm only living from this place now for about 2 years since I did the heavy work in 2020. 14 weeks of healing, girlfriend, which I talked about on your podcast, right? Where for me, it was really about, embracing who I am, like all of who I am, the good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing, and really coming to a place of peace and now living out and from that place of integrity, right? Integrity isn't something you do, it's something you are. And that it's fun to, calibrate and recalibrate every single day. Now, you and I could talk for hours and you're definitely going to be a repeat guest. We love the encores. I create the ripple. So as we wrap up, what is something you would love to leave the listeners with?
Compassion. It is when you're first starting out on this journey. I know for me and for basically every single one of the women that I've walked through this process with, it's something that it's like, okay, like compassion, but like, what does that feel like? What would it be like to be compassionate to myself? I have no idea. And so, and also this like compassion, why would I want to be compassionate to myself when I am overeating? When I'm finding myself in abusive relationships, why would I want to be compassionate to myself? And the first thing that I would start by saying is, what do you gain by not having compassion? What are you losing by keeping it in that place? And is there an upside? Like, legitimately, is there an upside? Other than it might just be comfortable, it might just be your normal pattern, right? And then the second thing that I'll say that absolutely changed my life was the practice of feeling on purpose, which I describe as sitting down on the ground, either getting on a yoga mat or just getting into your body. I like to start on all fours and asking my body, okay, if compassion could move, how would it move? And then just seeing what comes up. Even if it's just like your body's like, I have no idea. Well, okay, just like let it move a little bit. Would it go in circles? I often find myself like having like a heartbeat sense motion when I ask myself what love or compassion would feel like. And even if you're not a dancer, it doesn't matter. Like there might be judgments. It's probably going to be weird at first, and that's totally fine. It's totally normal. Just hear your body out, set a timer for a minute and see what happens. Because what that does is it creates a blueprint in your body for an emotion that is very unfamiliar for you. And once you get into that practice, it's like you have a little bit of a roadmap that you can go back to of like, hey, body, we're trying to practice compassion. Can you remember what that feels like a little bit? Can you get in touch with that? And then the more you practice that, the easier it becomes to practice compassion. And the more you practice and the more you tell yourself, oh, see how the positive effects of feeling this way, the more you're able to kind of work with yourself to integrate that in and build a loving relationship with you, with your pain, with your history, with your future self, with your emotions. But you've got to start with teaching your body how it feels.
That's amazing. Wow. I am so grateful that we had some time to share space today. I feel like what we shared certainly had an impact on me. I'm still feeling it in my heart center. Thank you. And for me, that usually feels like relief. It's the only way I know how to put it, this little lift that I'm like, yes, and that I will follow that today and see where that leads me. So thank you for taking time out of your day, Rachel, to come and share space and share wisdom with me and my listeners.
Absolute joy. I will chat with you anytime.
Okay, good, because we're going to have you back again. And to that end, listeners, if you loved her as much as I did, and you're like, no, I don't want this episode to end, that's great. We'll have all of Rachel's information down below so you can connect with her, follow along, listen to this girl's podcast. It is awesome. I loved holding space. We had so much fun talking about the feminine and masculine balance. Like
Totally.
we could do that all day long. Anyway, we'll make sure that everybody can connect with you. And for the rest of you, my listeners, thank you so much for showing up. Please do like, share, and comment, because it does make a huge impact for those of us who are out there sharing this kind of content and taking time to make sure that we show up in vulnerability for you. Thanks so much, guys. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Create the Purple podcast. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Mikolai Rajic, who is the founder and managing director of Marriagenomics Incorporated. He has got an incredible YouTube-based program where he talks you through data as he interprets it regarding the COVID pandemic. Now, we have stayed far away on this educational podcast from weighing in on any of the pandemic itself. However, it's important for us to direct you when we discover a source that we believe to be grounded, who leaves their opinion on the entire thing out of it, but simply provides you with a great resource to interpret the data that, of course, is just continuing to come at you. So we've done a big shout out. We're really grateful that we, and I personally know Dr. Mick myself, and I'm really grateful that he's been taking the time to put out some incredible videos going through and dissecting the data as it's coming to you. So we're sharing a link to Marriagenomics, their YouTube channel specifically. We'll have a link down below in the show notes. Have a look at that and go follow along for some amazing interpretation of the ongoing pandemic for your COVID safety. And thank you so much for listening. Are you looking for a simple, easy weight management solution? I thought you might be. I know I was. I also wasn't interested in something with a ton of gimmick without any science behind it, which I know a ton of companies have. The company I'm about to share with you actually has 12 of their own clinical studies. And for me, with my science-based background, I needed to know that. I also needed to know the product worked. And so I was introduced to the group that, however, had 125,000 members in it, all supporting amazing stories of weight management, weight loss, hair regrowth. Oh my gosh. Not surprising though, considering the product itself has won numerous awards in and out of the nutraceutical industry, which I think is pretty incredible. Pretty exciting as well is the fact that it's made with their patented technology, 7 international patents on the collagen in this product, made entirely from chicken sternum. Chicken sternum, why? Because it most closely mimics the collagen that our own bodies create. Now, I'm a 36-plus-year-old woman, and so making sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of and trying to reverse the clock so I can age gracefully is super important to me. Making sure I'm taking products that are safe, making sure I'm taking products that are approved, and making sure I'm taking products that I would be happy to share because there's integrity at the top. So this company is a values-based company, which I absolutely love. Not only do I love that, but I love the flavors. This is mango. Mango's my favorite. This is from the Modera company, which you've heard me talk about before. 1 simple spoonful a day. In the morning, I can add it to my coffee if I feel like it. I don't add the mango, I add the vanilla to my coffee, but I can add a simple spoonful to my day. It tastes awesome. It tastes amazing. And it's helping my body to maintain the figure that I've worked to get to. Why not? Now, if you're looking for some weight management, this is going to help curb appetite. It's going to help your body to function as best. And we know that when you do something like that and you make wiser choices, your body says thank you. This is part of an entire system called the Lean Body System. I will make sure to post information for that below, or you're welcome to scan the QR code, which I know is going to be somewhere in the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. If not, head over to modere.ca. That's MODERE, modere.ca, or modere.com, and use code 5579027. Again, 5579027 to save $10 on your next order, regardless of what you put in your cart. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the listen.